call this meeting to order. I have 7:02 p.m. and all those who can, please rise for the pledge of allegiance and discuss it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Brittany, the roll call.
Sure. Vice Chair Robert Bishop.
Here.
Mark Schwab.
Here.
Dan Esco.
Here.
John Boyle.
Yes.
Chair Joseph Diver.
Here.
And our town manager Thomas Hutchison.
Here. All right, with that, if I could have a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Number 5, public address to the board. This is the time when the public may address the board on any item listed on the meeting agenda or on any issue or matter of the town. If you intend on addressing the board at this time, we ask that you do the following. Please identify yourself by name, address of the company, institution you represent. Public address to the board segment will last no longer than 30 minutes. Please make your comments concise and try not to repeat statements made by others. Please address your comments to the board chair. Discussion or debate on any issue may not take place at this time. The chair or the designee may answer questions on procedural matters. Please be cordial and respectful of others. If anyone wishes to be recognized when the board discusses an agenda item, please make the request at this time. The board may grant this request. Address comments to the board chair and be concise. We're meeting in person, making this meeting available via Zoom. For the convenience of the public, since we're meeting in person, we'll not be responsible for any technical difficulties. So if you'd like to be sure to participate, please attend in person. This is what we typically do. I look up to the audience and just tell me the agenda number that you wish to speak to, and when we get to that agenda number, then we'll go through that. So anybody wishing to address the board tonight? Yes, sir. Ms. Dalton. Which agenda?
Richard Holt, 164 Green Ridge Drive. Can I be recognised for number 9?
Number 9?
Hour.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dalton.
And the other question I had was, are we still under a water ban under the drought? Because I looked at the Fire District's website and it's still got that, and it hasn't got any update on it. So just something.
I don't believe so, but that's a water district decision.
Yeah.
So not controlled by the select board.
Yeah,
So,
no, I understand, but I was just making an observation for everyone.
Yeah, I did see one earlier in the year, and it was, they said it was normal drought, normal
Yeah.
conditions, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else to address the board? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? I know we have colonial power representatives there. Okay. Let's see, we'll move to number 6, approve the CRA's 46th annual Dalton Road Race on Sunday, May 7th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, did you actually approve the minutes already?
We did.
Thank you, I was busy.
Appoint police detail officers and constable for May 8th election.
Yes, as you recall, there's a new law that requires the select board to appoint the election officer, the officer at the election, that is, and the constable. And what we did last time was we appointed the police chief and the senior sergeant, and Bob and Joe, I left on your agendas the form of the motion. It was on the top of your folders when you sat down. I left the form of the motion for doing that this year. That then transfers to the police chief the ability to designate as schedules allow.
Okay.
I move that the police chief and senior sergeant be assigned as police officers at the Dalton polling places, and that the select board delegate to the police chief the authority to reassign those positions to other police officers according to scheduling and availability considerations.
Motion is second, any discussion?
Does this cover all elections for the rest of the year, or just the election coming up?
Just the election coming up. We have to do this on an annual basis.
Oh,
Yeah.
annual?
Whenever there's an election.
Whenever there's
Oh,
an
yeah,
election.
there's an election,
Okay.
sorry.
Got it.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Number 8, recommendation for a school resource officer and the grant application. Mr. Stroud, this was your item. I'd like to recognize, I think, Mr. Rick Peters is here and Superintendent Leslie Blake Davis. Thank you. Mike?
I had this brought up in light of the shooting that happened, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And once I brought it up, I had numerous people come to me and tell me they supported this. Numerous people. We directed the chief to look into it. There is a grant available. It costs $0 to apply for a grant. It costs $0 to apply for a grant. We can figure out the numbers afterwards, but right now, we're just looking for support to move forward from the board and to let the school board know that we as a select board support this, moving forward, applying for a grant,
And the grant's for how many years?
3 years.
3 years. And I have a couple of questions. Any questions of the board?
I support it.
Okay. I support it as well. And I think this would be our recommendation to CBRSD. I reached out to our chair's school committee. This would be our recommendation to the school committee to move forward with a resource officer for the middle school and high school, or all schools in the town of Dalton.
The way I see it, I mean, I would like to have a school resource and security officer. It would either be to cover the high school, middle school, and Cradeville, but also to be doing security checks at the buildings. I mean, obviously, we would defer to the chief, who's more of an expert than me, but that's what I would be looking for.
Chief, do you have any stats of school issues at all?
I do. Would you like to hear that now?
Sure, yeah.
Is this okay?
Yep.
Okay. So what I did is we ran our stats since September 1st through April 10th of 2023. So the beginning of the school year till now. There's been 125 calls for service regarding middle school and high school age juveniles in the town of Dalton. That does not mean we're going to the school 125 times. So what we did is we broke it down. Of the 125 calls, 35 were for threats. This is social media occurring both during school and non-school hours, but involving students. 23 calls for trespassing, noise disturbances, all juvenile-related calls. 16 calls for vandalism. Again, not all school responses, outside of school hours. 11 calls for theft. This is both in and out of school. 9 school-related issues, such as students walking out of the school and them calling us to respond. 8 calls for breaking and entering. 6 calls for fights. This is both on campus and outside. 6 calls for bullying. This covers reports made by school staff and parents. 3 calls for underage drinking parties, and 3 calls for Orbeez shooting events, 3 sex crime investigations, 1 drug investigation, and 1 call for a weapon on school property. Just to break that down a little bit further, of those 125 calls, 31 rose to a higher level, created an official investigation. 5 of those were for threats, 4 for vandalism, 4 for theft, 1 for breaking and entering, 6 investigations for bullying, 4 investigations for sex crimes. 1 of those calls resulted in 2 separate investigations, 3 investigations for fights, 2 investigations for the Orbeez shootings, 1 investigation for drug, 1 investigation for an underage drinking party. Of those, 13 juvenile cases were brought to the criminal level, 5 for fights, 3 for trespassing, 3 for bullying, 1 for threats, and 1 arrest for an underage drinking party. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do just in this school year to this date with juvenile issues. It is my opinion that a school resource officer would be incredibly valuable and could help alleviate some of these issues proactively, as well as deal with them instead of pulling our officers off the street to be dealing with juvenile issues. If we had a school resource officer available, they could be doing that
So the
instead.
school resource, so all those cases aren't necessarily on campus, but
Right.
it's the juvenile population and the
Correct.
relationship between the school resource officer and the
Right.
population.
And it's
right?
parents coming to the department to report issues because they're coming after school hours and coming to see the police department. So, you know, I thought that was a bit, more than what I thought it was gonna be, to be honest with you, so.
So, and then the process would be, if the board approves support of the grant, we would apply on behalf of the town, and if we get the grant, then we go through the school committee for their approval. Because I believe it's a superintendent. It would be, I think, Leslie, your recommendation to the school committee of an SRO.
Right.
So I think that'd be the process. We have the school committee support of moving in this direction, or more to be determined there?
Well, I certainly can't speak for all the school committees, but we have to approve all the grants the school committee does, no matter where the grant comes from.
Yeah.
Especially a grant that would involve personnel on the site, we have to approve it, the school committee has to approve it.
So if I may,
Yeah.
so this is it's called a COPS grant, doesn't mean it's for police, but that's just the name of it. And it's applied for by law enforcement for law enforcement. So I reached out to the superintendent, told her that this was something that had been brought to my attention through both community members and other, you know, town government people that were supportive of this. We are on a tight timeline for this grant. They don't release it for long. It just opened within the last 10 days. I reached out to her immediately, let her know, hey, I would like to apply for this grant. I would request that the school's support for this grant. Nothing says we're gonna get the grant, and without applying, we have zero chance of having this happen. If we at least apply for the grant, we have a chance to work out the details later for funding, for even if we want to move forward with this. We don't have to accept a grant, but I asked for their support. I expect to receive their support. I would be pretty upset if I didn't, because it's my job to keep our community safe, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm very hopeful that I'm gonna receive the support that we should be getting.
Any objection going forward with the grant application, Leslie? And then if we get it, we then review it?
I don't think, you know, I reviewed the grant pretty carefully because I asked Deanna to send it to me just so I could understand it as well because, and I don't think you absolutely need a letter from of support. I think it would be helpful. What I would like to do though, because any new position, even as part of in Central Berkshire, is always approved by the school committee. Because ultimately, even though it sounds like 3 years is a long time, you know, if it's, you know, assuming it's successful, it becomes part of the operating budget. So I would want, school committee would expect that they would have an opportunity to express their opinions and go through the vote of approval prior to my doing anything in writing. So that's what I said to Deanna. So what we did was, I will be introducing the topic at this, we have a school committee meeting on Thursday. I will be introducing the topic. Rich, as chair, is going to propose that we have a school committee meeting. It's either the I think it's April 27th, which is a Thursday. It could be the 28th, but I think it's the 27th. In between there, safety and wellness.
You losing connection?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't, okay, come on up here, Leslie, sorry, yeah, sorry. Okay, so we'll just make a note, if you're gonna speak, we're gonna come up to the mic, just right next to Deanna, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that, Leslie.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a very loud voice.
That's okay.
I did.
No, it doesn't get much. Yeah, that's okay.
I'm good,
Fine,
okay. So what I've asked, so what Rich Peters is going to be doing is we will be scheduling another school committee meeting for April 27th. Don't quote me, it's that Thursday. I think it's the 27th or the 28th. In between that time, safety and wellness, our safety and wellness school committee, I think that this is a topic that they're very much interested in, and they want to have an in-depth discussion about that, and they will make a recommendation to school committee for a vote on the 27th. So at that point, it's not going to take me long to write a letter. It wouldn't take me long to.
So we can prepare the grant and meet that deadline to submit it. Once it's-
So maybe I didn't say this, Chief, I can't remember. I thought in between there, I said, but we scheduled that meeting. I have a couple things that are timely, that being one of them, and I want to make sure that you would know ahead of time whether
the school committee has a vote of support, because they do need to be behind it in order for me to move forward. So that's just an important piece to this. But we're moving, we're all the pieces are in place right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, all set?
Yes,
Okay.
I've reached the part in the grant that I can't move any more forward without supporting documents. So
Okay.
I'm about 6 hours in right now. So
Okay.
we'll just wait it out and, hope for some supporting documents from maybe the town and the school district.
So maybe we can draft a letter and have it ready for when the
That would
school
be-
committee votes.
that would be
and
great.
then get signatures
Yeah.
that night, okay.
Thank you so
We have a
much.
motion, we have a second, any further discussion? In support of the 3-year school resource officer grant and the town shall, I'm sorry? Nobody made a motion? Oh, I thought there was, I'm sorry, Jen, it's okay, is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to support the school resource officer grant program. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And thank you all for that conversation, and thank you, Chief, for finding that grant. So, okay, all right, great. Yeah, you want to move number 12?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to move number 12 up?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second, move number 12 up. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Okay, let's see, this is regarding Zinke's Pub. Ms. Murray? Yes, for time on the agenda?
I did. I sent you a letter of what we were requesting and what our concerns were.
Okay.
I don't know if you read that or if you can read my transcript.
Yeah, come on, come on.
Yep. Were you able to,
Yeah, we received it.
okay. I'm surprised we're not doing this as licensing board,
No,
though.
not until I get attorney review on the complaint.
Okay.
So we're receiving it tonight and then hear from other residents and maybe hear from Zinke's, but it's not a formal license hearing.
Okay. I guess on the 27th, I expressed everything that I really needed to.
Okay.
There's definitely issues there. My landlady has put tenant parking only signs in our property. One has been removed. I'm not saying, it was Zinke's but somebody took the sign remarkably. So I don't know what we can do. I guess there's a lot of talk that they believe, and I believe by just seeing it, that they're often over capacity. There's records in the zoning board of appeal, which I misstated in my letter. I said planning board, but because I was in a hurry to get it to you guys in time.
The bylaw that you mentioned, it's not cars to seats, but it's seats to parking spots that they need. So that's kind of how that bylaw is written. It's
Okay.
If you have a capacity of 60 seats in an establishment, then you need 20 parking spots, which each parking spot would be like 3 people.
Their average, right?
So
'Cause-
it's not the other way around. So that's just one.
right,
thing.
no, yeah, I
Yeah.
get that part, yep.
They're rather busy, yeah.
Oh, they are, and I wish them all the success, but not at the neighborhood losing out on a quiet enjoyment of their premises,
Sure. Okay.
you know?
All right, we'll receive the complaint, and so the next thing for us to do is then refer to legal review to see what within the complaint is a license in violation, to get our attorney review on that,
Mhm.
and then we'll have a license hearing to go deeper into that. If there are any violations, our attorney sees in that complaint.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And the other things are, there's been several accidents. I'm believing coming from there, including Darren Miller, who was supposed to come tonight but said he couldn't. I told him if I told his story, it's hearsay and, I have no business doing that. He claims it was on the police department's website, so you could review that yourselves.
Yeah, I'm sure when we do a license, if we, within the body of the complaint, we'll also take a look at our police logs and send that to.
Right, I provided you guys a copy of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have that.
we
Okay,
get that as well.
okay.
So we'll get a legal review on it, and if there's any licensing concerns, then we'll get back from KP Law. And then, if there are license issues, then we'll have a formal license hearing.
Okay,
And then that's timely, I don't know all this stuff, but I think there's a timely, we need to inform, Bill Zinke.
absolutely
and
has a right to be heard,
the
yep.
owners, that they can then be prepared to represent themselves or with an attorney gets.
And it may
involved on their
behoove
side.
you to get ABCC involved,
And not-
who
not-
they could send their investigators, and then you wouldn't have to overburden yourself
Yeah,
with this stuff.
yeah, I don't think it would go to that group until we look at it from a licensing board perspective.
Okay, and
Yeah.
any idea when that may be? Because,
Next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, depends upon when we get.
all right, I may
response.
call them in between,
Yeah.
just because it's really gotten, it's escalating, is all I'm gonna say.
If there's, Chief, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment, just to make sure I'm within the bounds of what I'm about to share here. If it's off the premises of Zinke's Pub, the parking situation and things of that nature will be a police matter. That if people are parking illegally on other property, or if there, I know that, Bud, your team quickly put up the no parking signs from the last time.
And Friday night, there was a truck and a trailer parked between two of those signs. And the police were called, and they did come
Yeah,
and moved it, but seriously?
I think it's just gonna take a little bit of
yeah,
ticket writing, which the officers are doing extra checks down there every day, and they are citing. So I think it's not gonna take long for people to learn not to park there, or they're gonna be ticketed, so.
yeah. And so we quickly took those actions and had the no parking signs up, and then now if there's violations, they should be ticketed or towed. And then go from there. It's kind of hard to hold a business responsible for that, but yet, how do we structure that in such a way?
Well,
that-
isn't it that the bar and the bar manager has to control his crowd? Even a sign in Zinke's bar that says,
Inside the four walls
"Don't
of
park at the Red
establishment,
House."
yes. Outside the establishment on a public road, I don't believe so.
no, it has to be approved by you.
Right. So
But our
that's-
own private parking lot
Yeah.
does need your approval.
No, if your private parking lot, if your private landlord or parking lot puts up a sign that
3 signs, one has
tenants
already been
only.
taken.
tenants only, all others
It's there.
retail at their expense.
It's up there, but they're taking the signs
It's
now.
not even a police issue,
Right.
it's private tow.
That's a private organization, out in contract with it,
Between the landlady, but the owner of the property.
and the tow company.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So
We understand that,
That
yep.
landowner can take that action, which may help in that situation, for sure. But that's not a town issue, it's a private property. I'm sure, Bill, if you would put a sign, say just be aware of the parking issues and things of that nature, that might be helpful, but not required. But
Right, but
Yeah.
it might just get them in a new habit of
yeah, I
not.
think the new habit would be something to take.
I had heart surgery not long ago
Yeah,
and was forced to carry 3 cases of water well above my 10-pound limit from past my dumpster because I couldn't even get into the parking lot. Or I wanted to drive up on the lawn so I could unload them closely. So that's a problem for me.
yeah, no, I think anything on the private property of the building that your landlord owns is the landlord's, I think, responsibility and right to put up the tow signs if you're not a resident.
She's got them right.
Right, and then have a private contract with a tow company to pull those cars out.
Right.
And go from there. And on a public road, with the no parking signs, then our police department is responsible for that authority to ticket and tow, if need be. So those are the types of things that we need to look through, especially with our KPR attorney, of what is a licensing issue, Board of Health issues, what could be a planning board issue, any bylaw violations that are within the complaint, we need that legal review. But anything that's outside onto that public way is our responsibility to put up the signs. I think we took immediate action on that. And now it's just extending that into the private.
But they're
property.
still ignored, that's my point.
But that's the enforcement, so what you're sharing with us is that that's ignored. We have the chief of police right here, we're gonna bring it to the police department and say, okay, we're gonna start, we have to enforce that.
That's another issue I see too. If you look at all the police calls, and it's not 100%,
Yeah.
we're pulling our police department to a private business. We shouldn't be subsidizing their business. The laws, I believe, and you can talk to town council,
Yeah,
he has to control his crowd as manager and owner.
sure,
It's not happening.
okay. So we have that complaint, we have it in writing, we'll have the legal review. KP Law will give us their evaluation back, and once we receive the evaluation back, then we'll go to a license hearing when it's.
And you think 8 weeks?
I would assume 8 weeks based upon turnaround from town council. So they might get it sooner, I don't know. I can't say a week or 2 weeks, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
All right, then maybe I should call the ABCC myself.
you can
Who
certainly
can,
do
who
that.
can maybe
Yeah.
intervene and get things
You
moving
can certainly do that.
before someone gets killed there.
Yeah,
Like someone, and this I shouldn't even say, but drove through Darren Miller's garage, broke his lift. Can you imagine how quickly that car must have been moving?
my car was in there the night before, so I know exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, if there are those types of issues that raise to a state review, we'll find that out through our review process. But we have to have the formal license and hearing in order to go through.
right,
those
that's
steps.
why I had requested it come as a licensing board.
Right, and that's why I requested it
Agenda.
right, so we can share it with legal counsel to then give us a review and pathway forward. So I've already talked to legal counsel this past week
Okay,
about the process and making sure that we're on the right.
and they're unaware of what we do from here?
No,
Our
no,
lawyers?
they know
Oh,
exactly. I
okay.
said, this is, we're gonna receive it at the select board. We're gonna formally receive the complaint here tonight, which is what we're doing. We all have a copy of it. We're going to then take it and forward it to our legal counsel for review, if there's a motion to do so, which I think will pass fine. And then just have our legal counsel review it and tell us whether or not there's licensing issues to be concerned with. So, because there are certain steps that we can take within the bounds of being a licensing board. that
The
we need to
local
make sure
licensing
within the
authority.
guardrails, and then also give Bill and Melissa time to, get their legal counsel involved if it's a violation, so they can also review it. So there's a long process to
Right.
make sure if there's a violation.
But you can address the issues of the parking and the square
Absolutely.
footage of each parking space, which I don't know that Leo Delaney has measured them and they're not the 200 square feet or whatever our bylaws say it must be.
If there's a
So
bylaw
there's a lot of issues there.
Yeah, if there's a bylaw violation, then it goes before the planning board, correct, Tom?
Zoning Board of
Zoning
Appeals,
board
I
of
think.
appeals?
It would be the building inspector's job to look into it
Okay,
and then refer it.
so that would go to the building inspector, then he would then go review that evidence, that information, and see if there's a violation.
Okay. And I know there's other people that have come that would like to speak as
Sure,
well.
absolutely. Who
All
else
right.
would like to speak on this matter?
Leo,
Yeah, and make sure you come up to the microphone.
would you care to speak as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of us.
This is very quick.
I'm recognizing this. What's your name?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I live at, my name is Maggie Walto. I live at 5557 Daily Ave in Dalton. I just want to ask, is there any possible way that on the curve on our side of the road, is there any possible way we can get sidewalks? Because if I take my mother out, she has Parkinson's and very slow to walk. You have cars parked on the unidentifiable sidewalk and on the curb, so I have to take her, and you're going in the middle of the road. I have pictures I could show you. And if people are walking with carriages with their children, it's a high risk. And all I would just like to ask is if we could ask for sidewalks. So between
Yeah.
55 and 27 Daily, there is, and there's constant parking on, even this gentleman in the red, he lives in that old brown oil house. And there's now parking right along his truck.
Okay.
It's becoming too much.
So
I would have to take my mother in the road in order to walk down the street.
Okay, sidewalks, we can't decide tonight, but if you're asking as a resident, you like sidewalks on that street, what we do is go to our town manager with that request of sidewalks on that road. He then collaborates with our DPW superintendent to look at the sidewalks.
Okay.
But I don't think we're gonna decide to put sidewalks in there
Oh.
at the moment. But I think if you need sidewalks,
Yeah.
or the residents would like some, I think we have a process to go through for that. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so we would go to,
Mr. Chairman, if I just
Mr. Boyle.
interject this moment.
Absolutely.
There is a sidewalk on that street on your side, which is the west side. But the sidewalk stops in front of Mr. Zink's establishment
yeah, 55.
and then starts up again after it gets by his driveway and continues down the main street.
Okay.
So it's just a small,
Yeah,
50, 60 feet.
From 55 to 27,
Yeah.
there's like past Brown Oil, there is no
Yeah, it's
drive.
like 30, 40
I think-
feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it's not, I don't think she's asking for a full, like.
Yeah, but I would say the town manager will then collaborate with our DPW superintendent to evaluate.
That's a
Because on
small
the
job,
curve,
I just
yeah.
try to keep the,
Yeah,
It's just,
The size of
it's
this
it's a
job.
safety concern more than anything.
Sure,
Okay.
okay.
I
So we'll
appreciate it.
evaluate, bring it back here for a couple of weeks, put it on the future agenda, and then see what we do with it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Who's next?
I'd like anybody else that wants to say anything before we...
Okay, please come up, yep. And just state your name and address for the record.
I just want to quickly say, I have no problem with Mr. Zink having the business there. The problem I have is the cars in the road on both sides. Somebody's going to get really hurt. If you guys put those signs up, it helped tremendously.
Great.
Okay? So, like everyone knows, people need to learn that there's a new, like, sheriff in town, and you're not going to park there anymore. And if you do, you get a ticket, pay the fine, and eventually they'll learn that. I got nothing against Billy. He's doing a great job. He's got, I'm sure his business is doing fine. But the parking, and I only had 2 accidents, and I have a truck. So I want to thank you guys for putting the signs up. Very good job.
Great.
Sir,
68
can you identify
Daily
yourself?
Pardon?
Could you give us your name and address, please?
Ted DePietro, 68 Daily Avenue.
Teddy, we're all getting old, I didn't recognize you.
Thanks, Ted. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else to speak on this topic? Your name and address, sir, just for the record.
I'm Leo Delaney, 56 Daly Avenue. I guess my first question is, because I'm not speaking exactly about the same things as Deb was, do I have to send a separate letter for you to consider what I'm saying?
Speak whatever your complaint is tonight, we'll receive it. Yeah.
Well, it's all part of the same complaint.
Okay, if it's within the same complaint, the same structure, and same items we ask for not to be repeated, will be reviewed once by legal counsel, but go ahead.
I tried to sum up some of the things we've been talking about and looking into, and I just wrote it down. I'm gonna, I think mainly what Deb has to say, and what some of us have been talking about, is, and what she's already talked about with you, has to do with licensing matters, primarily with licensing matters. And there's plenty of that. There's plenty of that to be, once, I don't know, if you're considering this, you know, is the total of what, I think what Deb brought up is just nibbling around the edges of what's going on there. Like, I'm not even sure how many of you guys are familiar with Daly Avenue. The sidewalk doesn't end in front of Zinke's, it's just buried under blacktop. There's a sidewalk there. If you look at the cracks in the blacktop, you can follow the sidewalk right down that side of the street. It's just cars parked on it all the time, which is against the bylaws. Anyway, I guess that was mainly what Deb was going to talk about, and a lot of what's in her letter is about licensing matters. I've been looking at this since a year and a half ago, when my wife and I were the only people besides Mr. and Mrs. Zink at the license transfer hearing. And I sat here and I said the same thing. And the parking plan for that bar has been bogus since it was first drawn when Mr. Berger added on to that building. what everybody just accepted a year and a half ago is bogus. And so to me, the heart of this whole problem that's come up on Daly Avenue, which is unprecedented. 50 years that I've lived on the street and talked to my neighbors, nobody's ever seen so many cars on the street and cars parked in people's private property and people having to put up no parking signs on their own property to keep these people out. There's never been anything like that in 50 years on Daly Avenue with that bar. And we've already lived through both that bar and the Hard Hat and all of the people in them, and nobody's bar, none of those bars have been out of control like this one. So I'm saying the bottom line to me is a zoning issue, zoning bylaw issue. The place is not in compliance. And I just want to start my my comments with, there's a note, I think you've all got a copy of excerpts from the zoning bylaws about off-street parking. And there's a note at the bottom in the bylaws. It says, note, from section 350-41. In all cases, frequent parking of such vehicles on a public or private street or way adjacent to the premises shall be considered evidence of the inadequacy of off-street parking space provided. If that isn't in play on our street, I don't know what is. That's at the end of their section about off-street parking in the bylaws. So we're asking the select board to assure us that the building inspector, who will have nothing to do with this, I've been to the building inspector earlier in this year and a half, he decided to interpret the bylaws that he only has to do to look at a parking plan if it's a brand new building. That's his take. What we're asking for is that you, as his boss, as the town fathers, the people with the power, convince the building inspector to do his job. That's his due diligence, he's the zoning enforcement officer. He should do that. It's not, right now, it's on our backs. The people, the closer we live to Mr. Zink, the more we have to live with. Teddy lives up the other end of the street. He can love the eatery, he can love the Zinks, and what they're doing to our neighborhood, that's fine. And I don't, it's what's happening to us, it's not the people, as far as I'm concerned. It's what's happening to us that's riling me up and motivating me.
Yeah. On your point on this one, I'm going to turn to the board for a moment. So I think that's clear in black and white. That should be reviewed.
I think it should be referred, what, to the zoning board?
Zoning board.
Yeah.
If I can have a motion to refer, is there a second? Motion second to refer this particular zoning question to the zoning board? All in favor? Mr. Wood?
Can I ask what we're specifically, we're asking the zoning board of appeals to do?
To review the chapter 350 zone in article 10 off-street parking and loading, 350-41 table of off-street parking regulations, and specifically the note at the bottom of that regulation.
As it applies to 51 Daly Ave.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Can I just say one other thing?
Yeah.
So, something. All the comments in written complaints like Mr. Delaney has today, I would suggest that they be included with the complaint, summary complaint filed by Miss Debbie Mary and forward it to our attorneys for review and consolidation.
With no objection?
Yeah, with, the minutes of this meeting here, and along with all the documents, if Leo's prepared to leave them with us.
No objection. Any objection?
No objection to that.
Okay.
I think we still have to vote.
But
further
before we take a
discussion.
vote on that, why are we referring it to the zoning enforcement officer first, rather than taking
Because
the
that was
time to the
his-
zoning board? It doesn't matter what he said to you.
No,
Why aren't we-
he didn't say it to me.
Oh, he didn't?
He said it to you guys by signing off on it for the transfer. He had to inspect the premises
I thought I
for the
heard-
transfer of the license a
Well,
year and a half
this would
ago.
be, this would be a complaint of the zoning bylaw not being
Followed.
followed. And
Correct.
so he's the enforcement agent.
Correct.
So now it's
He's
a
the
different
one
question.
that's not following it.
I don't see why we would take the time out the zoning board until we had the zoning enforcement officer actually go out and do an evaluation
Yeah.
of compliance with bylaw and draft a letter stating the findings.
But he is a department head, so he's
Who
answerable to
is
the town
his
manager.
immediate superior?
Town manager.
Town
Town
manager,
manager.
technically.
Yeah,
Boss,
technically,
so-
Talk to your town
he should simply just have him in his office tomorrow and tell him,
Okay.
I mean,
So
yeah,
we'll-
other,
so I
just
think-
voted on the first.
Just for
Yeah,
the,
we're gonna vote on that.
just for the record, we're going to amend the motion to refer this to the zoning officer.
No, I was asking the question, why weren't we doing that? I wasn't saying,
Why don't we
I want to have a
refer it to the
conversation
town
about
manager?
it, to figure out if that's the right path.
Why don't we refer it to the town manager? To
He can
discuss it with the building inspector, who is his employee.
Then he can defer to the zoning board if he has to.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to, I'll withdraw my motion, how about that?
Okay, is there a new motion?
Make a motion, we refer this to the town manager to deal with it, speak to the zoning officer, and defer to the zoning board if possible, if needed.
Okay.
second.
Motion is second, all in favor, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, that motion carries, so there'll be action on that item. But continues, sir.
Okay, I just want to sum up my thoughts and where I was going with this and why. If the parking plan is brought into compliance with the zoning bylaws, with their off-street parking requirements, and the business patron numbers are changed accordingly, that's a sticky part. The neighborhood can go back to normal. Our neighborhood is not normal. And the cars parked all over our street and our private property will go away. Because we're not supposed to be subsidizing Mr. Zink's business plan by letting people park all over Daly Avenue. That note at the bottom of the off-street parking section of the bylaws, to me, is a big red flag that I can plant on Daly Avenue.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from. None of us are trying to put Mr. Zink out of business, but I think we do agree that our neighborhood should not have to pay the price of subsidizing a business plan that doesn't provide for adequate off-street parking. The zoning bylaws are in place to protect the character of the town and our neighborhoods just like ours. They should be enforced.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
so
gentlemen.
we'll refer this to our town manager for that zoning question. And then to Mr. Boyle's point, if you can submit, just give us a copy of your statement so we can forward with the record and the minutes of this meeting to our attorney so they can review the entirety of the concerns. Would be helpful. Anybody else?
Okay.
Leo, you can bring it up to the town hall tomorrow and give Alicia's not here tonight, give her a copy, or she'll make a copy. And it will be included in the material that Mr. Deaver, the town manager, are going to send to the town attorney.
It's not typed and double.
That's it, well.
Okay, no,
All
no,
right.
no.
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall.
Yeah. Just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at Google Maps, and there is a concrete sidewalk that ends at the parking lot, and then there's one on the other side. If I'm going to go have dinner there, I wouldn't know there's a sidewalk there, so one of the things may be to look at marking the sidewalk, if that's the case.
Great point.
Thank
Or raise the sidewalk.
Great point.
Well, yeah, or just even mark
And it
it.
makes two entrances, one at the beginning of the parking lot and one at the end.
Yeah, just,
A circular parking lot.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Bill? Four socks.
Okay, thanks. Of course, I grabbed the wrong envelope out of my pocket, that's good. All right. First, thank you for taking the time to listen to all of us. And I understand a lot of what they're saying, because we have been successful, we've been busy. Just let me start from the beginning a little bit, so I understand. When we decided to purchase this place, it's never had paved parking. It's never had lines. So how do you judge, so I understand it more in my head, that this was never an issue before when anybody could just park anywhere they wanted in that lot versus now that I have paved parking. I mean, would I have been better off just to put a plan together and just not pave it, or pave it and not line it? Would that have been easier on me? That's what I don't understand a little bit.
I don't know the answers to that
Because
question.
since I took over, I've been made vast improvements to the parking, I thought. So we can get more cars in there and try to offset the on-street parking issue. And I'm working with the police chief. And it was when we first presented this, it was say we had the orange the temporary signs. So when I had like a music on a Friday or Saturday night, when I knew it was going to be busy, we would put those signs out. And the next day we'd come home and I had to take them up. And that helped, and that relieved a lot of my headaches. But putting these signs up that you guys just did permanently, huge stress release. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah. My wife Missy's a big fan. I know the neighbors are a fan of it, and that really, really helps us out. I don't want the parking issues just like they don't want the parking issues, okay? But I can't be out there monitoring where everybody's going to park. In regards to you, and I know your issue you've had earlier, we've talked about it. I offered to buy signs to put up out of my expense when this happened a few months after we opened, to buy 6 signs out of my pocket to put up, like you have the no parking sign and say tow zone. I just noticed they put signs recently down. We got one there now, right? Only let me see one.
There were 3.
And there's only one now?
No, one has been taken.
Well,
They removed it,
okay.
whatever.
But I saw those signs, but they're pretty small. So if somebody parks there, they don't see them, they don't know. I think they should be a higher sign, which I'm willing to pay for. I'm willing to get you nicer signs.
Or just tenant parking only.
Right.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. Oh, okay. So anyway, I'm willing to if they want that, I'm willing to do that. I got thinking about that little paved area where they're talking about the sidewalk. A temporary fix is I could put a couple yellow, like Mitchell has, those yellow no parking signs until you guys decide what to do with that. Then that'll eliminate and help Maggie and her mother walk around. So I could buy a couple of those signs on Amazon, throw those up for the parking, and that would pretty much block.
Hold on, no comments, please. If you want to make a comment, I'll call on you, please.
That would pretty much block somebody from parking there because it'll be right on that spot.
Okay.
They won't be able to park there unless they pick up the sign and take that too, which I hope they don't do. You never know anymore. John Kelly was very nice, unofficially offers we can park all my patrons, and what we do, I let my employees park there up against, that's his behind the motel where the yellow facade is.
Yeah.
So I think we get I didn't count them, but I'm trying to think in my head, about 8 to 10 spaces roughly, depending on the weather. I make my employees park there so the patrons don't have to walk across the street and they can be closer to the pub. I also get, which people don't realize, people don't like to park in that parking lot. Never have, because it's a small parking lot. It's not huge. You fit 25, 30 cars in there. So they say I park on the street because they know they can park on the street. They can't park where it says no parking, but you're going to have people, even when I have spots in my lot, you're going to still have people parking on that street because they just don't want to park and worry about their doors getting dinged up. That's going to happen. I mean, I'm not sure. Missy and I, we've tried to do everything we possibly can do for this. We're all on board with however we want to handle this. But it's just like, it's a situation where I think I've tried so much of what to do. John was very nice, willing to put up parking signs, willing to put out the no parking temporary signs. but I'm in the place, well, I'm not outside, I can't be watching them everywhere, and when they do happen, we react, all right? So, it's like somebody parked there the other day in their truck, and they couldn't move, and then they came and we got them out of there, which I didn't see. If I knew it, I would have saw, I would have told them they had to move their truck. I mean, it's just a tough situation. In regards to some of the comments regarding capacity, when we first opened up, we didn't know how successful we were going to be, if we were going to be busy, if we were not. And then we realized we're getting busier, and we're starting to get a little bit of a younger crowd after about 2 months in. We had people from other communities coming to check our place out. And we had an incident outside my parking lot. And then after that incident, it was like a few months after I opened, I decided for security reasons and for the public safety to get a person to check IDs and a bouncer every Friday, Saturday night, which I've done that. And they keep account, they check IDs, takes pressure off the bartenders. So we have them on Friday, Saturday nights. I've also reduced hours. I don't want all these, so I reduced my hours. I talked to the chief. He said, how about if I reduce, it was initially 2 a.m., now I got 1 a.m., and now I'm trying to get people out of there even sooner. I'm calling last call earlier. I put up a thing about 6 months ago, no shots after 11 p.m. I'm trying everything possible. I'm not just sitting back and letting stuff happen, not trying to react and do things about it. We're trying different things.
Billy, 28 years in law enforcement, I can tell you the biggest problems that bars have are the late hours.
Correct, yeah.
That's what gets them every time.
Right.
Because it seems to be where you make the money, but that's comes with the
Right.
sorry, ass ache right there. When you start serving late. So I know it costs you money, but cut it back to where you can still make a good living.
Yep.
But you got a lot on the line there.
Right, I get that.
And I think I appreciate your comment, Bill, and everyone else's comments. I'm interested to see what, from a licensing perspective and process, just see what our attorney comes back and says, and then maybe there's some happy medium along the way. Because the parking, the zoning bylaw, and thank you again for pointing that out, is that if there's a lot of parking on the streets, we can enforce some parking rules and regs, right? So as a town, because kind of there, but how do we bring it all together?
Right.
Love the idea of putting up the no parking signs in the private property for being towed if you're gonna be there and you're not a resident. Love John Kelly coming to help and say, use my space for overflow parking and things of that nature. So I think there's solutions to this concern.
Yes.
And I think we just need to kind of go through this process to evaluate and then see what the end result is. But yeah, I think you'd probably be more successful than 85 would.
Yes, oh, exactly, yeah, it's been great, yeah. What we like is we don't, when we open this place up, we're all new to this. Missy and I have never been in the restaurant industry whatsoever. We went to a lot of them, but we never opened one. But it's, what we found out is we have a lot of families that come here, young kids. We have a lot of elderly come here at lunches and early dinners. So we're getting a lot of great feedback, not just from Dalton, but from surrounding towns are bringing their families to Dalton and seeing what Dalton's about and all that, which is kind of cool. Right? I got one person that comes all the way from New York State, 45 minutes twice a month just to come to our place. 45-minute drive. They just love the food. They love the atmosphere. It's a good vibe. They feel safe. It's a great place.
No parking sign.
But it just, and I do feel bad. I really do. But it's just frustrating from our end because we are really trying. We're not just sitting back. We're trying.
If I can take your comments, Neil, and put the board certainly chime in here. But I see this as a three-legged stool collaboration. The business owner of the town and the residents come together with a solution for these issues and these concerns. And then how do we navigate that through existing laws and whatnot, and we come to that type of conclusion and go from there. But I do think we can all collaborate in that spirit, in that direction. Any other board comments at all?
No, pro-business, pro-resident. Yeah, that's the line we gotta walk.
And then balance it all.
Right.
So,
we do work very closely with the chief. Anytime we have an issue, one thing is we were in good communication. If we have issues, if she has concerns, we address them. We try to address them at that point, and we go forward.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to do to make improvements to make this all better.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? No? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I want to go ahead and close out that topic. Our next step action is to take the complaints and send it to KP Law for evaluation, get their feedback. It could be sooner than the 6 to 8, but I just don't know what to, I don't want to say 2 and not be able to deliver that. And then see what the attorneys come back with. If there are licensing issues, then we'll certainly call a hearing, but we'll at least bring the findings back to this board at least.
Excellent.
At
Let us
minimum.
know or somebody knows.
Yeah, we'll give you important information about when we can discuss that.
Okay.
And then, but in the meantime, if we can all collaborate together and try and resolve some of these issues, that would be wonderful. But certainly, the no parking signs, the town should enforce those, and we're gonna get that bylaw reviewed and see what the outcome of that is and go from there. Board, any other
Thank
comments?
you for your time.
Okay, thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where are we? Well, let me, if I may, just really quick, I'm sorry, Colonial Power, hang on for one more second. I want to, if I can, board, if we can move number 10 up. Is that okay? Any objections?
That may be an extended discussion.
Oh, that may be an extended, Bill, how much time? Colonial Power might be quick then, right? Is that what you're saying?
It won't be quick, but they are due on another call.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Thank you, Tom, for that. Okay, we'll move to Colonial Power's presentation. Thank you for hanging on. Bill, hang out with us for a while, sorry. No, the other Bill, Bill Roshi, yeah.
And Denise and Mark, you should be able to share your screen.
Tom, did you want to share the pricing? Is that what you're looking for? I just want to make sure I have the right thing up for you. My apologies.
I look good frozen.
Yes, sorry, one of our Zoom screens is frozen. But the select board has what you're showing them now in their packets.
Okay.
And you can follow along here to see what he's showing you.
Good evening, Mark Caponona, Colonial Power, I Mount Royal Ave, Marlboro.
Hi, Denise Allard, also from Colonial Power Group.
So what we're here to discuss tonight is tomorrow 17 communities in the Berkshires will be going out for final pricing on their municipal aggregation program. This is the supply portion of your bill. The town has been part of this program for quite some time. I think it's probably up over 10 years now. They were one of the original communities that went along with the Berkshires. So the decision tomorrow that somebody from Dalton is going to need to make is currently all 17 communities have committed to go together. And what that means is they need to choose supplier 1 or supplier 2. And then they need to choose what term they're going to choose. Right now, in Dalton, the current rate, to give you an idea, the current rate is 9603. And you have been on that rate now for just over 2 years. That rate is effective until the December meter reads in 2023. So that rate won't change until your January meter reads when we get into January. And the pricing is I believe it's up in front of you on the screen. You also have it in your packets. So decisions between supplier 1 and supplier 2, and whether right now, given the elevated pricing, as you can see, pricing is elevated, but elevated, I want to say that it's elevated in a way, but in other ways it's come way down. So you have protected the residents and small businesses in Dalton from a tremendous shock. So right now, if you're not on the program in Dalton, you're paying 22 cents a kilowatt hour compared to 9 cents in the program. And again, this summer I expect the rates to come down, but not nearly down to the 9 cents. I expect in July that rate would probably be somewhere in the 12s. Just given today's pricing, they haven't bought any of that energy as of yet for the summertime. They have, it was back in November. They bought the first half of it, but prices were still elevated in November compared to where they are now. So the decision and what we're asking the board is to give the administrator, Mr. Hutchinson, the authority to sign off with the other 17 communities on at least the guidance that we got from the indicative pricing, which you're looking at here. Is they were thinking somewhere between the 24-month, which is 13,158, and the 36-month, which is the 13,551 in supplier 2. That's currently where we're looking, and then depending on the current, I didn't tell you this, but in Dalton, you have a 5% more mass class 1 as your standard product, which is the third tranche down. If you can see this, this is the current product that the residents of Dalton have. So the rate would be like 13,370 or the 13,375. I didn't get a feeling yet from the group which way they wanted to go. We're not at historic lows. The last time was fairly easy. When things are at historic lows, you certainly take it for as long as we can. I don't think this is a historic low by any means. The market is a little bit choppy, so I'm saying to you this is advantageous pricing. I'm not certain I would go to the 36-month, but the 24-month certainly protects the community moving forward from any price shocks that we've seen. And the market is extremely sensitive to what's going on in Ukraine. We have taken a large step over the last year of Europe getting off basically all of the energy that they're getting from Russia. That's oil and natural gas. But here's the bad news. It has created a tremendous demand for LNG, which in ISO New England, I'm not speaking for it or against it, we have a natural gas capacity issue, so we backfill the system with LNG. Unfortunately, that LNG we compete against Europe for. Now things have settled down from where they were just a year ago when the invasion happened, and what I'll call governments in Europe were just trying to make sure that their citizenry was going to be heated over the winter, so they would pay any amount for LNG. As you can see, we're no longer seeing these 22 and 30-cent prices, but we're still not down to where things used to be, and I don't think we're going to get down to where pricing used to be. Those old prices are gone. I'm here to answer questions about the process or what might be on anyone's mind from the aggregation standpoint for electricity in general. But that's basically what we're in front of you, looking, for the authority for Mr. Hutchinson to sign off with the other 17 communities tomorrow. The window is unfortunately short. We'll get pricing at around 11. We'll turn it around, get it out to the group by, say noon. They'll have a chance to look it over. Then we have a call at 1:30. He has to have a signed signature before 3 o'clock so that they can set the winning supplier can set their hedge at that time. But they don't like to go much past 3 because the market hasn't been as liquid at that time. So 3 o'clock is kind of the deadline for people to sign off.
So if I can add one thing, I think that the main choice is, would the town want to have the 24-month price, which is slightly lower than the 36-month price, with the understanding that the 36-month price is with our current provider, which has some benefits in terms of efficiency. Obviously, there are other benefits for taking the lower price. First, it's a lower price, and secondly, it is for a shorter term, so that if there were more volatility, we could adapt more quickly. But locking in, so the question is it worth locking in the 0.13735 price, or whatever it turns out to be tomorrow, for our current supplier to have that extra year of stability? Did I get that right, Mark?
So the only thing I want to make sure that you're aware is, and I couldn't get a full feeling, I know people were looking at 24 and 36. It's true, but if they only give you the authority to sign 36 and the group goes with 24, Hutchison, we're going to have a problem in Lanesboro. So I'd just like to make sure that you have the flexibility to move with the group, because if the group's going to stay together, I'm just making this up, if everyone, the other 16 communities chose the 24-month, you have to go with the 24-month to stay as a group. You get to choose, if you want to do a meats or a national wind product or 5% mass class 1, you can choose that, but we don't have flexibility to choose a different term.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking in terms of a preference to go in with.
Oh, I apologize, Mr. Hudson. I understand. If they had a preference, certainly they should state that, but certain we want to know that, for certain.
So the discussion tomorrow will be with the other 16 towns as to what their preferences are and why, and trying to come to a consensus in an hour and a half, or less, I hope.
And we have met for 2 hours discussing this in the past. I think we had consensus of whether 24 or 36. People were going to go back and think it over and then make some decisions. I don't think it's going to be difficult, and I will say this, there is some benefits to staying with the current supplier from a customer confusion standpoint. It's still going to say Dalton Ag on the bill, but the issue becomes, I thought it was in the aggregation. Right now, you have Dynegy as your supplier. If it changed to another supplier, people might question that. It can create some confusion. I just want you to know everyone will be moved. No one needs to do anything. At this, even when we move, they'll automatically be moved to the other supplier. There's no action required on the end user or the resident or small business.
Can I make a motion for discussion? I'll make a motion we instruct the town manager to negotiate on behalf of the town of Dalton and the select board with the 16 other communities for the best price and the best outcome tomorrow during the negotiations.
Your second?
Second.
Motion second, discussion?
Yeah, could I just ask Richard's opinion?
Good.
Hi, Richard Hall, 164 Green Ridge. Hi Mark, Denise, how are you?
How are you, Mr. Hall?
Good. So a couple questions. What's Pittsfield's thoughts on all this, being the biggest member in the group?
So I know Denise has had a conversation, so I'll hand it over to Denise. She's been speaking with the person running point there.
Yeah, I did speak with Pittsfield last week, and I think they're still kind of weighing all the options, but kind of what Mark said, they're just kind of going back between the 24 and the 36. The benefits to the 36 is just the price stability for an extra 12 months on the end of the contract, rather than only going out 24. It's a fixed rate, it's stability, current
Right.
supplier, et cetera. But, there's the option of the 12 months. I think, Richard, there wasn't like a clear decision, but
Okay.
they were weighing, this is kind of in line with what Mark was saying, were pluses and minuses earlier. They didn't bring up anything additional that we didn't already kind of discuss.
Right. Secondly, at the moment, we're on the plus 5% requirement, correct?
Correct. 5% more mass class 1s, Richard.
Yeah, so I just ran it at 500 kilowatts, and the difference between the standard and the 5% is only $1.06. So my recommendation we'd stay with the 5%. Because the other question I had was, before the DPU 2106, which we corresponded about a couple months ago, that seems to be stalled to give us the option to do a greener product. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, Mr. Hall, that's 100% correct. The only good news is we have a new administration, and every time they're anywhere, they get asked about Muni Ag, and the new Secretary of Energy has said, we will be addressing the amount of time that these take. Here's the bad news. Literally everyone I think it's today that the new chairman and the new commissioners got sat. So it's not like something's going to happen overnight, but we would like to, again, choose a product, another opt-up or opt-down product, so that we can offer it once we get the order.
Yeah.
We do think the logjam will have ended, but I'm not saying hold your breath by any means, but I'm saying I think by the time this contract comes, we may, later this year or early next year, we may start to see some orders come out so that you can offer those products. There's nothing controversial about the ask in front of the department.
Right.
Just want to pause for a moment. Just so we have a motion to put Tom in charge of the negotiation on behalf of the board. Do you have some questions from Mr. Hall?
I just wanted to hear it.
Okay, what's your opinion, Mr. Hall, on what we have before us?
Your recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be to look at the 5%, and either go with the 24 or the 36 months, depending on what Pittsfield decides. Because they're the big, I mean, the last point I'm going to make, and then I'll leave it up to you, was Boston is also up for renewal the end of December 23. Well, obviously they're in Eastern Mass. What's their opinion of the timing of actually signing a contract? I just wondered if there was any input there.
Mr. Hall, that's an excellent question. They went out for final pricing. They didn't get quite the same participation that you have. They decided to not accept bids, which is an option again tomorrow. But they're out in the market, almost identical timing as you. They were out on the 5th. You're out on the 11th, 6 days later.
Great.
We have a motion
Thank
for
you.
the board.
And
I support Mark's motion that we leave it to the town manager to make the best decision for the town of Dalton.
Thank you. I was going to ask for a clarification that best price was one factor in determining what the best option would be.
Whatever you think, Tom. If things will change by tomorrow.
16 other communities, we want the best price and the best outcome.
The best outcome could include factors other than price.
Yeah.
We have full faith and confidence in you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion is
Thank you.
second. Any further discussion?
Well, I don't want to, be a lone dissenter here, but I would certainly think that best price may win today, in my opinion, but and that would seem to be the first option up here. But when you run it against 500 kilowatts, like Mr. Hall did, it's $1. So it's somewhat insignificant overall when you're extending pennies out to 5 decimals.
Yeah, and it is a way to support renewable energy. Unfortunately, Dalton is not in the position to be able to offer more than one option at this point. We have a petition in to do that, but the Department of Public Utilities is not moving forward on that with any speed. Other communities can offer more than one option, but Dalton is not in a position to do that now.
I would say, let's not breach the 14 cents at all in terms of a guardrail.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to do that. No.
I just want to make sure that, we get what we want with this motion, and it's not too open-ended and vague. I understand we trust the town manager to make this decision, but, you know,
Well, I think the thing is he's making a decision with 16 other communities.
Because even if we make a motion to accept one, we don't know what they're thinking.
Right.
There has to be consensus with 16 towns.
consensus on 24 or 36 is term the most important in terms of consensus. I guess I can ask our representatives on the line here. What is the point of agreement between the 16 communities? It's the term is the most important.
And supplier.
And supplier. Well, it looks like supplier 1, okay, supplier 2 is our current, there's some advantages, but if we get a better price from supplier 1, I would support that. I guess that's the last thing.
Yeah, in some sense, it's a question of whether you're betting that energy prices will go up or down in 3 years, which is, I don't know anyone who'd be willing to stake a lot of money on that.
Not me.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Thank you. And thank you to the folks at Colonial Power for hanging on, and thank you for answering all those questions.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Bye.
like to move
See you tomorrow.
agenda number 11 to the next item up.
Okay, any objections?
I don't think this is going to be a long one.
All right. Number 11, DPW updated street scan presentation, Mr. Fred Hall.
We're still frozen?
What's wrong with the internet here tonight?
Joe, you got any ideas?
I'm an IT guy, right, Tom? Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I always go to the YouTube.
I would go to TV then, sorry.
Yeah, we watch this.
So,
Hey!
Yeah, it's that last one.
prices they had to pay in this business. Look at these guys here. He used to be so brilliant and handsome.
that was Blu-ray.
Wasn't? It started off the
Okay. Right. No access.
Internet, maybe. Oh, remote access within the,
It's usually
yes.
I'd go one more, huh?
Yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah. You did connect. Should come up.
There you go. Showing different?
It's always good.
All right. So if I can take a second here just to help you kick it off, okay, just for the folks at home and folks in the audience. A couple of years ago, the town decided to invest in a program called Street Scan. And basically what that is think of it as like that old Google car that goes around, maps out, locations. it mapped out all of our streets. And it uses this technology of artificial intelligence to take all this data gathered about the conditions of the roads, the cracks, the crevices, potholes, I don't know, all the other data points it gathered. And it gives us basically a health report, so the state of the streets in the whole town of Dalton. And as you can see, some are red, and some are yellow, and some are green. So the big question we always hear from residents is, when is my street going to be repaired? And where's it on the list? This really helps Bud and his team and our town manager prioritize where we should make the investment on the different roads. And also, you'll see, I think I may show you that if we say we want to put additional $200,000 into the budget just for a number, it will tell you exactly where you should make the investment. So Bud, I'll hand it over to you to kind of guide us through the show and tell.
This is the main screen, so it's showing you right now is all the...
Can you pick up his voice at all?
It's okay.
Okay, all right.
This is, right now, the colors are the pavement condition index. So, obviously, green is excellent, then you got good, fair, poor, very poor, serious. There's none that are failed, which is not possible. But, so you can zoom into different streets, and you can see different sections. Like, okay, click here on this street here, it'll tell you Riverview Drive, Dead End, what kind of street it is, what they recommend, the mill and fill for the street. The one thing that is not right at the moment in this is I don't have the proper numbers for like estimated cost of repair. I'll have those in mid-May, so I can put them into this program so I can make it so it's kind of like nowadays prices. It tells you what kind of street it is. It's a local as opposed to different ones. It's asphalt. How long it is, 802 feet. These roads are done in sections, if you can see. Well, like this road actually, I think it up here, the whole street. So some of them are done like over here. You can see that it's done in different sections. So it's not all of Pleasant Street. But some of these sections are different. You can see different things. And then over here, you can do different layers. And this is our, before we do that, I'll show you our average pavement condition in the town is 52 at the moment. We got 37 miles of road which was scanned. And it says the backlog is 20 million, but the number is off because it's not the proper numbers in the computer at the moment. I'll have those. These are more numbers that they put in with the program. I adjusted them somewhat, but I was still trying to tinker with them to find the right numbers. You can also do this as well, you get rid of that in the streets, and you put on pavement maintenance. So this is what it's recommending for those streets. So if you zoom out, now the colors are different, but it's telling you like, you know, let's say Housatonic Street here, this section is saying these cracks in it, which is between South Carson and Depot. And then dark green here is deferred maintenance, which means nothing. And then at the other end, up by Nessicus, which didn't get done when the project was done. They're saying mill and fill that section, which, you know, seems about right, because it needs it. But you can see, like Dalton Division is now nice and green at the moment, because I can show you too, where we can update after we do things to the road as well. But this is all in, you know, green here, all the way around. Same thing here, you got different sections of the road up on Kirchner. It shows you can zoom in and out. See what footage we can do here. The other thing it can do is it can show you that this will show you all what's the areas of the road are screwed up kind of sort of. If you look at the get this out of here. Put it all up. This is the whole town. And over here it tells you the different things: bumpiness, alligator cracks, block cracks, longitude cracks, which are across the road. You know, if they see cracks, if there's like if we put a patch in the road, it'll show. If you zoom in, you can kind of see like the roads are, you know, it's filled with a bunch. Another, see what layer we have. This is catch basins. So the car also picked up when we went around. It picked up all the catch basins in town. So we have an inventory of all the catch basins and all the roads in town. So you can see, you know, the corners usually are here and there. And also, we go over here too. They have catch basins, I'm sorry, they have manholes as well, and it's got the border, so if you put the catch basins, it's kind of, they're similar, there's just less of them, it's the sewer manholes and the drain manholes. If you go out, you can see the whole town, you know, where they are. So it's got, that's a cool thing for us to look at, for things when we're trying to do it.
But how often do the roads get scanned or updated?
You can, like, I'll update, just like if we do projects to the roads, I can update it on the system, so it has it. But like every 5 years, they say you should scan it again. Like that, so you can kind of update things a little bit. So this was all scanned last April, so it's been just about a year since all this has been done. All the work on it. So, let's see. Budget. This is another little step, put it back through.
So if we stick with street scan, we'll get a new pavement condition index for the town in 5 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
see.
If we do work on the roads and I put it in the system, the pavement the condition goes up.
Oh, it does?
It was less, it was like 47 or 8 before we did Dalton Division in that part of Washington Mountain. After I put all the work in and did to it, it came up.
Okay,
It
beautiful.
crested the 50.
Oh, yeah, I see, 52.
I remember it was below 50 when we first got the presentation.
Right.
So this is, we're back to the PCI part of it here. And then we go to, I'll show you one more thing we can do, which is kind of neat. One of the bad, I'm just thinking one of the bad spots right now in town is, right here is Whippoorwill.
Yeah, Frederick Drive, Whippoorwill.
Yeah.
And it's horrible right there.
So,
Right by the bridge you're talking about? What?
well, Whippoorwill is like between Frederick
Yeah, okay.
and, over here. This guy here. And slow. Usually a little faster.
Trying to get the street view?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Nice.
That's not bad. Hey, that's it.
Yeah.
Much better now, right?
No, I'm glad.
Go back.
So as you're reloading this, right, just kind of, we get the
Yeah.
chapter, I think these chapters mix up between the school and the road, chapter 90, right?
Yeah, chapter 90, yeah.
So we get 2.25 or 230 from that feds, and there might be some more money coming down. Paul Marks' request goes through the budget process. I think he asked for 25 million for his area, which has gotten bigger.
Here we go.
Anyways,
Okay.
Here we are, Frederick, Whippoorwill. Let's see, this is what the car did when it went by, so all the roads, I can do this where they've been. You can kind of, zoom it out, and then I hit the arrow. I can make my way down the street. Still looking at it, and then, this street gets a little better up in here. But this whole area, you're looking around here, going up through is really, this is actually a lot nicer than it is right now. It's in really
Can you
rough shape.
give a brief recap of the construction of these roads and what needs to happen in the long
No,
run?
these roads through here were like development, I believe the town accepted at one point. I don't know, I'm guessing the 80s, I'm not sure. But they weren't built properly, so they're kind of, the material under the road isn't as good. So these kind of need to be reclaimed, which is kind of a big machine that kind of comes through and grind like 8 inches blacktop with some other mixtures in it to make the road so it's firm, and then repave the whole thing. It's kind of what this area needs. There's some roads that need that for sure. And this is one of them,
So this program also kind of lists the priority roads, right? So
Yep,
kind
so I
of,
can show you that too.
yeah.
So here, this is, if we do it by, it goes this way, you can go, I'll put it this way. Here it is. So this is where the lowest PCI, so this is kind of where, this is what I use to see what needs to be done. And these are the ones that has on it. River Extension is a gravel road, that's one that doesn't really matter, but these ones, the rest of them all matter. Pleasant Street is in through FERCog this year, you know, I do have it up to bid, it doesn't mean we have to accept it, we don't have to do it, but if we get a good price, we can get it done. Whipper Road, we were just looking at, right there with Frederick. Edward's getting paid this spring, they actually called today, he's doing that soon. Trying to think what else on there. Audrey, Tower Road. But the thing with this too is when I click on this, is it's not the whole road when they show you these. These are just the sections. So right now it's Pleasant Street. So it's only going to be a tiny little section, I think. If I click on this right here, it's going to show me where it is right here. This section right here is what it's talking about. So it's only that tiny little spot it's talking about, which it's saying is going to be this much money to fix it. But it's you know, it's.
And those high estimates, are those high estimates or low estimates currently?
Those are high. I would say those
Okay.
are high, yeah. They're definitely high. For that tiny little spot.
Yeah.
You know, here.
Excuse me, wasn't your plan to do Edward, Sunset, and Judith as a group?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that still a plan?
Well, that was all approved last year, so it's,
All right,
it's getting
yeah.
done this spring.
People down there constantly ask me. Some of them are actually opposed to it because they think it's going to raise the water level in the,
Oh, really?
or something like that.
Those are being done.
Yep.
Chamberlain's going to be done. Crane Ave and John Street.
John Street.
This spring here between, by June 30th, they'll all be done.
So this is the top of your list now, if we understand this correctly.
Well,
Pleasant Street?
this is what the computer kind of gives us. You
Yeah.
know? And my list is kind of, is similar. The only thing I would do differently is if I'm into Whippoorwill Lane, I'm doing Frederick as well, and Sleepy Hollow, because it's all one long road. It's just 3 different names on one long road.
You know, I was down there looking at that. The worst is Sleepy Hollow as you drive into it.
Yep.
But when you go up the hill, it's not that bad.
It's two kind of coming in.
Yeah, when you're coming in, and then Whippoorwill, as you said, and then on the Frederick.
Yep.
But as you go up Sleepy Hollow Road, it's not that bad at all.
So, but that's what this shows, and then you can change it here. I mean, it's like, now this is telling me which one I should crack seal first. And it's saying I should do Deming, Fair, and South Street. I could change what maintenance suggestion is, reconstruction, it's that one section right there on the one.
Do you show the funky budget
Yep.
list?
But,
I love this one.
so, I did some other random ones today, just so I just
Okay.
have this for the quick one. So this was what I did today. This is reconstruction, so reclaiming it, and this is what, this gotta go. So, that was 3 years, like having a budget of 300,000 per year, which is 220, 225 we get through chapter 90, if we had any more money, so that's what this numbers are. And this is reconstruction of roads. But you can see how it does it. I don't always agree with the way it does everything. Because it's got just doing like these tiny little sections of roads. You know,
It gives you a guide and just kind of insight, data insight.
Yeah, it's a good guide. It definitely is. It helps with certain things.
Yeah, is there any update on your grant request for Orchard Road?
It's due June 1st. I started the application. I did the expression of interest. They gave me feedback back. And I started filling out the grant, so
Yeah.
working on that.
Does that, this subject came up the other day. Is there provisions in that grant in reconstruction of Orchard Road for a sidewalk?
There is not. at the moment, and there's not, I mean, that's something I can do. I mean, it's not in the grant that I'm doing, this sidewalks are not in the Mass Works grant that we're applying for. But I know that's been an issue, I think, for years.
Awesome. Any other questions from Bud? Thank you. You're good?
Yeah,
That was great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Seems like the tool is very helpful.
It is, it's very, I can use it for a lot of things. And
Yeah, I mean,
all the roads are measured, I can use it to measure if I want to know length of the road, I just go on here, and it tells me.
it's not gospel, but it's helpful. It's a tool.
Exactly.
And for those monetary figures you saw up there, he can enter the current price of materials.
That's gonna be very helpful
And
once you
it
get
will,
that.
it'll just spin that right through everything.
But let's ask you, the blacktop plant's open right now? And has the price come down at all?
We were going to Sunderland
Yeah.
last week to get blacktop, 2 potholes actually on Orchard Road, but nothing here is open yet. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have something that's still open, but we've been road tripping.
The stuff you got in Sunderson, did the plant, price come down at all?
No, everything's up.
Yeah,
It's all up. Everything, it's one of those, unfortunately.
thanks.
All right. We talked about future road repairs, kind of talked about that a little bit. So are we good?
It's gonna cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Chair of the Finance Committee, wants to talk about fine. Come on up, Bill.
You see you this evening?
Hello.
Yep. Give you all of it. This is the worksheet that we use to compile the numbers for the budget each year. Now, I'm here to kind of give you a little bit of news. Tom you have the most recent copy of that as well, as far as I know. So, at any rate, this year, when we finally got down with the final budget deliberations, we came across a rather disturbing number. And if you look at page 3, up toward the top, it says total town operating budget. And if you look at the total town operating budget across that line, you can see a 10.1% increase, equating to $873,031. That's not a good number. And I can show you in a couple of places why. But I want to talk to you first about historically what we've done since FY 2021. In FY 21, the budget went down 3.1%, or $207,000. 2022, the budget stayed virtually level. It was $1,800 of an increase, which is negligible. Then we go to 2023, which was last year. The amount was 2.4% up. Now, Joe can attest to this as well as many other people. We went to the school district and we asked the school district if they would keep their budget, if they could keep their overall operating budget to 2.5%. Well, we kind of overshot that a little bit this year. Now, there are some reasons within this budget that occurred. And part of it is, when I first became chair, I knew eventually we were going to have to get caught up on some of the things that we've been letting sit aside while we took care of some other rather larger issues that were looming. And I'm not here to point fingers at anyone or anything or any entity when it comes to that. But we have, from what I can tell, have pretty well accomplished that at this point. There's going to be some other things that come up. But when you look at the back page, page 5, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. You look down at the bottom, the over or under levy limit. You'll notice that last year we were at we're going to use round numbers, $1.2 million under the levy limit. After this year, we are at $800,000 under the levy limit. We've lost almost $400,000. I can tell you for sure, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced it, but when you bump up against that levy limit, finally, if we keep at the pace we're going, people are not going to like what happens in this town. It gets very ugly very fast. I think John might be able to attest to that. We went through that in 08, 09, and we went through that in the late 90s. One of them was the insurance crisis that we endured through the school system, and the other was, and that was at no fault of anyone's, that was the insurance crisis that drove that. We actually endured that as well. Wasn't because ours isn't as big as theirs, it wasn't quite as dramatic. But when it comes down to that, we need to focus this coming fiscal year. That's what I'm here for, to get everyone's attention in advance of next year. Now, as
Bill,
I've
you talk
always...
about, when you say next year, you mean next budgeting year, next
Yes.
fiscal year
Yes.
after 24?
Yeah, yes, fiscal 2025.
Okay.
The Finance Committee...
A year from this July 1st.
Absolutely. This Finance Committee, the presently seated 2024 Finance Committee, we've deliberated and we've agreed with the budget that we have in front of us. And most of it was done rather painstakingly to come up with these numbers. There were a few budgets that we looked at and we asked that they reduce, and others they were allowed or even suggested to go up in. One of those being the Highway Department. We thought his should actually be a little higher than it is, only because we're still playing catch up with all of the things that have gone on. Chapter 90 being what it is, level funded for a lot of years, it's just started going back up again recently. So the infrastructure has fallen a little behind. So he's had to do a lot of legwork to get caught up. And I think he's in pretty good shape now. I don't know if Bud can speak to that or not. But at this time, I think we're in pretty good shape. Another budget that saw a rather hefty increase this year, and I believe last year, was the police budget. And that relates a lot to police reform. That's very substantial and it's a budget that is kind of, we don't know what to do with it, to be completely honest with you. Our police chief does a very nice job putting that budget together each year, but it seems to be, unfortunately, it seems to be spiraling on us, and we somehow need to tame it in some manner. So, with this discussion, the way that I've always kind of seen it, and many others do, is the Finance Committee presents the budget to the people of the town each year. And the Select Board and Town Manager are in charge of kind of figuring out how they're going to spend it, or how they need to spend it, whatever it is. And then those are, of course, the taxpayers' dollars. And that's kind of why the budgets go through the Town Manager, to the Select Board, and then to the Finance Committee. Because you people need to figure out how you want to spend the money before we can go to the townspeople and say, can we get the money? Does everyone kind of follow that? That sounds like a pretty reasonable course of events.
I would just say this before we get much further on this course, but by Massachusetts general law, when you adopt the town manager form of government, the town manager is charged with developing a budget and submitting it to the town, namely the Select Board and the Finance Committee. Not the other way around. It doesn't start with the Finance Committee, and you are an advisory board and a recommending board. The town manager is responsible for developing a budget under Massachusetts general law, with the town manager form of government.
Well, ultimately, the approval process goes through the voters of the
Absolutely.
town of Dalton. He can have all the power he wants, and we can have all the power we think we may have, which is pretty insignificant when it comes to the voter in the town of Dalton.
Absolutely. I'm just pointing
And
out,
that
that's where
being-
it starts. It starts with him.
That being said, I want to kind of lay out to the people with this budget. Myself, and I believe I can speak for a few, not all, of the Finance Committee members, our taxpayers can't tolerate a 10% increase each year.
No.
It's not going to happen. And I can assure you, next year, in fiscal 2025, that if we get to the end of the road like we are right now, and the number's above 2.5%, the Finance Committee is going to go into the budgets and start figuring out ways to cut to get to the 2.5%. Because I'm kind of tired of explaining to people why we're spending so much money. And I've explained it to probably hundreds, I've lost count. Because I get cornered in the grocery store, and I get cornered at the school, and I get cornered wherever I go. And I get asked the same questions.
Well, I like to
So-
flip the calendar around that. There's more finance committee insight before it even gets to this point. Because we're kind of backwards in that. We tend to approve stuff, then it kind of goes through a cycle. And Tom and I were talking about this, a week or two ago? Flip it around and have, you guys are elected officials, as well as we are.
Absolutely.
So it's like that financial insight and the trend analysis to say, here's what our target increase is for this year, kind of like start, okay, how much are we going to go up? And then budget, within that, rather than.
If I had my way, it would be the 2022 budget, 0. Go up. It's
You can't
impossible, I
survive
get
that
it.
way.
I get it.
You can't survive that way.
I get it.
Because
Let's
the
keep it in
unfunded
perspective,
mandates, and
but-
we just talked about 20 million in roads,
Absolutely.
right?
And I agree with that, but we need to understand that the target, and if you're looking for a mandate from the Finance Committee, we have a meeting coming this Wednesday. I can put that before the Finance Committee, and we can give you a target if you'd like the target. But we'd prefer to have you kind of find your target. Because
Well, here's my 2 cents, is that Mr. Bull is correct. It starts with the town manager and department directors.
Absolutely.
What do our directors need to budget to deliver the services that are expected of the town? And what can or can we not afford? That's a conversation between the town manager and the finance committee of what we can and cannot afford. I'm looking at services such as moving faster on the Board of Health agent to do more of the requirements for our local businesses and get that stuff solved quicker. All the other stuff, the housing issues, things of that nature. Does she have enough staffing to deliver what she needs to deliver for this fiscal year? The answer was no. Well, we get some more resources in there, right? What does that look like? That's a conversation with the town manager and that director. And then going back to the finance committee, it should be, okay, can we or can we not afford this? Because that's what I'm looking for, is what services do we need to deliver? And I think what you're presenting here is very good information. It's actually gonna, if people listen at home, when this new fire station comes up, it's gonna be a no. Because if we can't afford a bump in this, how can we afford more capital in town? What does that look like? A 1.2, 1.4 million for another station? I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. And that goes to the point of, and I stated it long ago, that we need to exercise fiscal constraint. And we, of course, haven't been able to because of the problems that we've encountered. But at the same time, when it comes to that, you're worried about your health agent, correct? Are you worried about how much it's gonna cost to do the health agent? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay, you or the town manager, or both, that's what the TAs are all about. It's you're concurring with town manager.
Yeah.
And then when we look at it, and it's happened, as you know, it has happened where the finance committee has not concurred with that. Now, sometimes we send it back to the town manager to figure it out, or back to the select board to figure it out. But that's generally how that works, and that's why we do it in that manner, is because we don't know what it takes to run the town to get what you need to get done. In other words, he needs to figure out, Joe,
Right.
he needs to figure out what he needs to do. Okay, we're just gonna use him as an example, our
Yeah.
police chief, she needs to know what she needs to get done.
Right.
She needs to talk to both the town manager and the select board to see if what she's planning is A, okay, and B, then she has to come to the finance, well, actually it's Tom, and then to the finance committee. So you gotta figure your side out before it can even come. We can give you all the great ideas you want, but it's none of them can be a solution. It's all in what needs to be presented to the taxpayers. And that's what the finance committee does, is present it to the taxpayers. I would anticipate, although it's probably not gonna happen, I would anticipate, considering that that was a 10% increase this year, that people may be interested in amending that motion that I'm gonna be making. I think it's in Article 3. Is it Article 3 or Article 5?
3 is the operating budget.
3 is our operating budget, right? And then Central Parks, yes. So it would be under Article 3 of the annual town meeting, that I'll motion that we accept the 72 various budgets. So that's kind of, I just wanted to, this is more of an informational thing.
Well, what's
This
the
isn't
driver,
a-
what's the driver of the 10% increase? What's the driving force?
Well,
Is it
if you-
unfunded mandates, is it growth of the town, new services, what's the driver?
Most of it is, from what I can see, personnel. Increases in various things relating to personnel. It's not, actually, the wages, I would say, amount to maybe, maybe 2%, or not even 2%.
Well, salaries are on the sheet.
Yeah, and I didn't pick the salaries off.
3.75.
Yeah, well, it's 3.75 of what their pay increases, so it would be an increase. So overall, it's probably gonna be a couple, maybe 1.5% for salaries only. But then there's a pile of expenses that show up inside this. An example is the Board of Health. It's a good example. You got a 29.8% increase. And you go, you can pick off anything that you want. Berkshire County Retirement went up 37,000. And if you can look back, the Finance Committee is going to be undertaking a look at the budgets, a historical look at the budgets as to what's being used and what's not being used. And all we're advocating for is, before an increase is asked for, to look at the historical data and decide if there are places that you can lower your budget in one place if you want to raise it in another. That's what we're advocating for. In other words, instead of just simply raising it.
I think we tried to.
Yes.
Just curious, and I don't know, did the finance committee reduce any budgets, or?
I don't think, did we?
I didn't see any recommendations of budget reductions from the finance.
No, we did not. We didn't, and we're not, and that's the point of this,
Yeah.
is that we kind of wanted to, because a lot of this was building. A lot of what we see here this year is building. Like, for instance, the health agent had to add some hours for personnel of some kind.
Because of unfunded mandates about housing from the state.
Exactly.
So there are increases in the budget which we cannot ignore.
Absolutely.
Right?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But there are other things and that are in budgets that are not used over time. We've looked closely at a couple of them. And
Did you reduce any of those?
We attempted to, and we're not going to go any further than that. And the reason we're not going to go any further than that is because those budgets were chosen not to be lowered for whatever reason. And we're going to stay with the reconstruction time.
I think,
We're
Billy,
getting
you-
back to where
I
we
don't
need to
recall
be.
any of those recommendations coming back to this board, though. I'm gonna pause you there for a minute, look at the
Yeah,
town manager.
that's fine.
If
No, I
there's
think we're-
recommendations, Ms. Wilhelm, if there's recommendations of budget adjustments from the finance committee, I do not recall that coming back to this board for discussion.
There were several minor ones that did come back on the order of.
But I would like to know more
hundreds of
detail, what
dollars.
was recommended or what action was not taken based upon the finance committee's recommendation. I want to know that detail.
Yeah, the time that was done, the recommendations to lower a budget, the time that was done was during subcommittee, not during full committee.
Doesn't matter what committee.
But that was asked of the department heads, and the department head reduced the budget slightly, but not to the level that was anticipated. So at that point, that's when we decided that we're gonna, this budget, again, and I can't stress this enough, the finance committee approved this budget, so it's going to the townspeople. It's not, but the point is that all of us, the 9, but we don't have a full committee, the 9 committee members, the select board, and the town manager need to focus in on taming this budget. That's the point of this discussion. We're not gonna throw things back and forth. That's not what I'm here
It should be a discussion
for.
with the department heads, Bill.
We will. That will happen. Our deliberations, just to let you know, Joe, we're starting to look at this probably in August. I don't know how much we'll get done in July. We now have monthly meetings of the finance committee. There will be work done on that, and there also is going to be work done on policies for the finance committee.
Well, if I may say something, I think what you're asking here is to instruct the town manager to bring in a budget for fiscal 25, is it? That's more compatible to past figures, 2.5, 2.
Now
or
you're
1.
getting it, John.
That's it, and that's a good recommendation.
Now you're getting it.
But you
Okay.
need to take into consideration of the unfunded mandates and the pressures that we on for police reform and others, which should settle down. So,
Joe,
And that's
well, we're an unfunded mandate, but I just gotta clarify what he's saying here. There's a lot of vagueness and side comments by everybody, but that's what he's asking for. I think that's a legitimate concern. And I think the town manager should incorporate it into his views in developing a fiscal plan for 25.
And just
Let it go at that.
absolutely.
Yeah, there's mandates to consider, there's things we have to pay.
Well, yeah, well,
We have to pay utilities. It's in the bill, we have to pay it.
Yeah, and you have to pay negotiated pay
Yeah, things you
increases and
negotiate.
whatever. That all, and I get that. I absolutely get that. The base budget, you come in with everything level, and any salary increases or mandates, you have to put those on top of it.
You know another big problem?
But any other asks need to be set aside until the entire budget's compiled. Then if you have other asks, then we'll talk. But we need to kind of look at a different kind of base budget today.
Another big probability is the levy limit is not increasing because a lack of construction of new properties in town, which is almost at a zero. There are a lot of additions, but as far as new homes, I think there was one in Dalton last year, 1 year before, 1 year none.
I don't know if we've put in this year's new growth yet.
I think they're saying based on the home values, that this coming year, there'll be a large amount coming in. And then after that, we'll see what happens. So, because they use the years from 2 years ago or something like that, when they do home values or something.
Yeah, the reval's coming up this year, isn't it?
We got a big bump this year.
Yeah.
So our revenues are up.
I feel like the budgeting process from the select board's perspective, when each individual budget was presented to our board, we were almost looking at things in a vacuum by themselves, or a series of budgets without really looking at a big picture. And to me, it just seemed like I'd like to see the big picture earlier, rather than here's a budget, okay, TA, your salaries went up 2.5%, but you level spending from last year, great TA, or, you know, in the case of the police department, there was a lot of increase in spending. But
Let me know.
I feel
A
like
timeline.
more information
A
sooner.
timeline.
Let us identify a timeline?
Yeah, what Dan's saying, you know, when do you think you would want to see
After
something?
their review and approval.
But I want to come back to the guardrails, more constraints that we can all agree should be put in place in terms of limits on total spending, and we just need to follow that.
We're gonna put some guardrails in, and you might not like them.
Well, no, I will like
You can't put no growth in it because of the issues we've had in this town over the years. You can't level fund every year and then say, we're doing great. Just look at the roads.
I can't disagree.
So we need to make very strategic growth decisions in the budget process, and I'd welcome the finance committee to collaborate. And we haven't done that yet. So the finance committee is in my opinion, for the board, finance committee is separate elected officials. They have complete oversight of budget and all financial matters of the town, and their recommendation is held very strongly. So if we have department heads that we can't reduce budgets because they don't want to, that's an issue between that department head and our town manager.
Right.
If they can't reduce that budget for whatever reasons, that's your decision to present to the board and to find the middle in that relationship.
That's correct, Joe.
But it's not the select board's authority it's not our authority, because we can recommend and we cannot support a budget, but to your point, it's the townspeople at the town level.
Ultimately, it's the
Right.
budget. Yes.
So we're still on the budget side here, so somebody could actually say, yeah, I hear about the police matters, but you know what, I want to reduce that, make a motion to reduce that by 50%.
That can be
It
done.
could cause a problem in the town meeting, but that's what the town meeting
I
is
get
all
it,
about. right?
and I get it, and I think that's kind of where we want to be with our discussions, is when we present at the town meeting, we want to make sure that we're presenting to the people a budget that is, and this is well thought out, but we want to make sure it's a budget that the townspeople can tolerate. We're right now. I have many constituents. If you tell me that people aren't complaining about your taxes, all 5 of you,
I'm a little bit, gents, I'm a little bit upset about this because I feel like we're reacting to this. We should have this conversation months ago. So now we need to have a move
Honestly,
forward strategy.
I feel like this is difficult. I get comments every day from people that I work with that live in Dalton. They're grateful that they live here and for the services they provide.
and they don't ask you about their taxes.
They don't.
They ask me about the value they get for their taxes. I point out the value, they're not understanding it.
Yeah, but, you know, I really don't see any major concerns out there. Yeah, people, I mean, from historic days, bitch about taxes. But.
We're the ones that get to listen to those, I guess.
Well, I'd like to wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
and-
That's fine. It wasn't supposed to go this long even.
Average tax, single family, average tax bill, right? 1,176 increase?
Yep.
Is that a true number?
Up 112, it should be.
Oh, well, what am I seeing?
Oh, I'm sorry, the average tax bill, I was thinking of the tax rate, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
Average
So
dollar.
is everyone gonna be
Yeah.
looking at a basically $1,200 a year increase in
or more.
that cannot
I'm
be
done.
tolerated.
Thank you.
That can't be borne by.
That is not accurate.
That's not accurate.
That's not accurate. You shouldn't say
Right
that
now,
on
I want to
television.
know, is that what you're saying right now?
That's what we have in our documents.
So if you're wrong, you're putting your word on it right now that that's what. 'cause
I will
don't
more
think
than
it's
glad,
true.
I will more than glad to put my.
You see, the average tax rate is going up $1,200 a year.
Not tax rate, it's tax bill.
Tax bill.
This is the last page right here. This is the number that the taxpayer.
That's what it's
ultimately
looking
is
like
concerned
this
with.
year.
How
That's
much-
what we're,
no,
that's why
how
I'm
much
having
money-
this discussion. Keep in mind, the most important part of this conversation is that we had to dig in deep this year. We actually made some changes with relationship to the capital expenditures this year. And so that it wouldn't end up so heavy on the tax burden. So that being said, that we had to fix things. If we don't fix things, the town begins to fall apart. We're ahead of it so that your people that say that they don't mind the taxes being what they are, those people don't see the problems. That's what this is all about. We have health issues from the Board of Health that I'm understanding. We have police issues that I'm understanding. We even have a huge increase in the communications budget this year, which hardly ever increases to any degree. That's my point. If we are to continue with this pace, we will be up against the levy limit in 2 years. By 2026, we're going to be against it. When we get against it, you know what? We're going to start losing police officers. We're going to start losing highway people working. We're going to start losing other things of that nature. I've been through it, and it sucks. I don't want to get there. I like the $1.2 million space.
I think we should, obviously, we go through budget, being conservative.
I think this year's budget is explainable and is investments in what we need to do. I think we're raising a red flag, that's a red flag that doesn't need to be raised, because we just put in process to move forward next year at 2%, 3%. But we have a lot of costs in here that they've ignored for years in this town that we're catching up with.
Billy,
Joe, I beg to differ on them
I would
being
like to know
ignored.
if what your statements are tonight are voted by your full board and you represent your board.
It hasn't been voted on by the board. The board has reviewed this, and everything that I've stated this evening are conversations with board members.
With the full committee?
Not the full committee, we didn't have a quorum.
Okay, we need to go back to the full committee discussion on this and look at how the finance committee and the select board collaborate moving forward.
That's what's happening Wednesday.
Okay.
Bill, how much in expenditures does it cost to move, did you have to expend to move the tax rate $1?
I'm not sure.
Well, how can we be throwing out figures if you don't know that?
Well,
That's a
I'm just going in from what was provided to us tonight. I'm quoting this figure here on this page 5, that's all. I'm not.
No.
I don't, that
How
can
much
be,
is this $800,000?
John, that can be a lot of that can be relative in different, because of different events taking place inside. The tax rate isn't really the big, what Dan came up with is actually the big, the dollars.
The dollars.
The actual dollars per average house. Those are the numbers that people should be looking at.
That's what they're going to pay attention to.
Did our town accountant validate these numbers
Yes.
presented to us tonight?
Yes, they have.
All right, let's wrap this up, but thank you, John.
We're all set. I wanted to let everybody understand that we are presently at a 10% this year, okay? And we need to kind of get the belts tight for next year.
For next year.
That's all that this conversation was all about.
We got the message loud and clear, and we
Very
agree with you,
good.
Bill.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
To follow up on something you said, Joe, I think we have been investing at a higher rate than in the past. I don't expect that rate to continue.
I agree.
And so I would not expect us to keep that 10% for another year or two.
I agree.
The dollars per house, Dan, is based on the home value. Home values have gone up.
Yeah.
So it's not all.
It's a combination of
Right,
valuation
the house
increase.
value has gone up.
Yeah.
So it increases the dollar amount. It's not all based on the.
Tax rate.
Right, or the 800,000.
Yeah. I've been asking this whole finance season to get ahead of this, and here we are.
Thank you.
Have a nice night. I'd like to go ahead and motion that we postpone, defer number 13.
Yeah.
What else we have?
I'll second that, I guess.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
What is it?
It's policy on family members on committees.
Yeah.
Trying to find the agenda again. Don't print out the whole damn thing. Sorry, give me a minute. Got it.
Let's see. Calendar update.
Tom, do you have anything urgent for your update?
Pretty brief one, actually.
Okay.
Not that I haven't been very busy, but a lot of stuff is in process, and I generally like to report on things that are complete, but there are some variations on that here. Just so you know, heads up, Mass DEP has found a couple of deficiencies in the old landfill. So we're getting our consultants Kleinfelder to work on those. We'll need to be making some repairs in the future, and it's gonna cost a little money. We don't have any idea how much, but that's what they're looking into.
This is a textbook example of money we have to spend. We're not spending money because we feel like it, or we're spendthrifts. Nobody on this board is like that. But these things we have to do, and you have to pay for them.
That's right.
I know Billy's, trying to be conservative, but there are things.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, both the planning board and the ZBA have approved special permits for the Warren Solar Farms project. They are now seeking approval from the fire chief for their fire suppression system, a requirement of the planning board special permit, as were police and DPW approval, which we have in hand. After that, they need Conservation Commission approval, and they'll be good to go. I am looking forward to the installation of the fiber ring and getting all of our town buildings onto the town system, a project that will be ramping up over the next month. We're also having a student-led brownfield study done by University of Connecticut students as part of a program that they run, and that should inform some of our redevelopment efforts. Money can be used for, especially for private properties that need help, especially if they're abandoned. I don't think we have many of those, but anyway, we'll be having some information on that. Now that the warrant is done, I have been working on the motions and explanations document, and we'll be going over that with the Finance Committee on Wednesday night. And I've also been working on various issues with getting the town report finalized and printed and processed and distributed. So, all of that is on track.
Good job.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Busy time of year.
Yep.
It has been.
Any future agenda items? Hearing none. Any items not anticipated 48 hours before the meeting? Hearing none. Any remarks to the select board? Hearing none. Announcements. Annual car permits, bag stickers, recycling only car permits are available for purchase at the transfer station and on the town's website. Town of Dalton currently has the following job opportunities: highway mechanic, building and grounds assistant. If interested, please visit the town's website or call the town manager's office for more information. There are numerous committees and boards with vacancies. Please see the town website for more information or reach out to the town manager's office. Dalton Police Department would like to remind the citizens of Dalton of the winter parking ban, which went into effect on November 15, 2022, and will remain in effect through April 15, 2023. There's no parking on streets between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Is your electricity bill too high? The town has contracted with Colonial Power to provide an electricity plan for town residents. It takes advantage of joining with other communities to have a larger customer base for negotiations, which has resulted in prices significantly lower than current Eversource prices. Please note, this may not always be the case. For more details or to opt in, opt out, visit the town's website or call the town manager's office. Dalton Housing Authority is seeking volunteers to fill 2 vacant seats on its board. Must be a resident of Dalton. Please call 413-684-1470 for more information. Next meeting scheduled to take place on Monday, April 24th at 7 p.m. at the Senior Center with an option for remote participation. Just a note, we're also going to have our town meeting education session at 6 p.m. that same evening, and this is actually going to be at Wacona Regional High School, correct?
Right.
Okay, not here.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
We do have an executive session, but I'd like to ask if we do need that tonight or we tie it into that other special session. Do you need to make decisions tonight?
We do not.
Can we postpone?
That's fine.
Any objections that we postpone executive? Okay, is there a second to postpone?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Okay, with that, motion to adjourn.
Joe, can you just quickly, what are we doing on the 24th now?
The 24th, we have the town meeting warrant educational session.
Yep, at 6.
6 o'clock.
And then we got a select board meeting at 7,
7 o'clock.
here.
No, both
We're
of us
gonna stay
there.
there.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
gonna be my ad.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, they're both gonna be down there.
Yep,
We can have the executive there too.
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
We're gonna, and actually, just a note, we wanted to start, I think if our attorney on the other matter is available, we're gonna meet even before 6, so just kind of watch your email on that. Maybe
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. All right,
Mr. Chairman, I have one very quick question.
what's that, sir?
Mark mentioned at the last board meeting, select board meeting, that he hadn't heard anything about the climate action roadmap stuff, and he wanted some information shared with your committee. Would you like a 10, 15-minute presentation at your next committee meeting on it?
As long as reviewed by town manager before it comes here.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, and I think as we're going through the town meeting warrant, it would help to have 5-7 minutes of explanation to the public.
Yeah, we can put that on, that's a great point, we can put it on the education section, I just want your eyes on it, so we all in agreement, that lines up with our strategy, it lines up with everything else.
Yeah.
Great work, all for it, but wanna make sure it's.
The one thing I might say is that I would want to share a bit more information with you folks who understood in a little bit greater depth, and then 5 minutes that I would make.
Oh, we can make time for that.
I'd like that on the future agenda.
Future agenda? Okay. All right. We have a motion to adjourn, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, good night, Dalton, thank you.